Hey, welcome to Matter of Action. I'm Wayne Morrow, along with you, a special guest all the way from down in Chile, Santiago de Chile. We have a member named Leah, and she is a knowledgeable bircher, and just wanted to say welcome,
Thank
and
you, Wayne.
wanted to give us a sort of an update of what's happening in South America, especially in Chile, since we know the issues in Venezuela and of course in Cuba, and sort of get a real time, non fake news on really what's going on because we see similar things here in the United States. And I just wanted to bear in mind it's real, it's not theoretical, and it's alive, unfortunately, but truth will prevail. And that's why Leah's here. So, Leah, welcome. And I just wanted to maybe ask at the beginning, sort of what, from a Bircher's perspective, what do you see? You know, we've seen this, as I mentioned before. And then how about the ordinary person that you interact with during the day? How do they react to all this? Are they buying all the propaganda? Can they see through all of this or not? But so just basically, if you can kind of walk us through that a little bit, and then we'll guide, to the next question or two.
I would say it's varied. So the people who are of the working class who are protesting against the government and wanting all of their frustrations aired and resolved are in favor of all of this. I think the higher class and the management level who I'm working with all of the time is horrified.
Mm-hmm.
I've been trying to understand from their perspective and from the Chilean perspective what's really happening and why there are things that I seem to be more frustrated about than they do. And all of this is very deep cultural and history that generates people to react and respond to these situations as they are. So what I mean by that is that my greatest frustration and horror is that the terrorists, quite frankly, I'm going to call them a terrorist. It's the guys running around, they're 15 to 25 years old, and every single day they're still looting, rampaging, pillaging, vandalizing. Generally, during the day, there's not a lot of things happening. The first week was really
Mm-hmm.
traumatic, especially the first 5 days, I would say
Hmm.
was really traumatic, and it's
Right.
slowly cut back a little bit since then.
Uh-huh.
But what keeps happening is every day around 5 o'clock, the protests start to build again, and the protesters go against the police. Yesterday, we saw a Molotov cocktail thrown at two police officers who started to burn. They're attacked off of their motorcycles. I think it's really a vicious, unfair fight. And yet, the people keep demanding to beware of human rights violations. And
Uh-huh.
so it's such an unfair fight. It's not even a fight. It's tragic to see that the police are trying to maintain law and order, but at the same time, they're not allowed to break anybody's fingernail, or people with cameras are in their face constantly that are going to call on human rights violations.
I see.
And so, in my opinion, at the moment, there's very little law and order happening. These thugs have control and they are truly terrorizing the population.
Right.
So it started out by the destruction of the subway system, and they attacked 82 of the 140 stations were badly damaged or destroyed in the first 2 days of all this. So that put everybody into shock and awe of
Yeah.
what was happening.
Hey,
Then
Lee,
they
I have
made
a
it
I have a question to ask you. Then is
sure.
that sounds like a real concerted effort, very well planned,
I
and,
would
and
say
and to
so.
do that, it can't be spontaneous. So who do you think would be funding this? Because it sounds like even the United States, where police are asked to stand down, which that's not what they're supposed to do. But then, how do you go through such an orchestrated destruction of a subway system? Because I used to work in Europe, and I was in Santiago de Chile, so it looks like a modern U.S. city, to tell you the truth.
It's
So,
one of the
so,
best.
so
Yeah.
how does that? So does that question come up with an average Chilean? Is that how does that play with them?
The sickness that's in my heart is that I would say the majority of the people support the protests. And the sickness that's in my heart is that in some warped way, they can justify this destruction because they've been treated so badly for so long.
Okay.
I got a little taste of this, I have to say, for the first time in my life. I was just in Peru 2 weeks ago, and I felt after 2 days in the city of Cusco near Machu Picchu, I felt the same kind of anger that I think they're feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And the anger is you feel like everywhere you turn, somebody is trying to steal from you, abuse you, take advantage of you. And this suppression just exploded. And so I believe that the initial attacks were well planned and orchestrated to set off chaos. But you have a frustrated population, and when chaos happens, I think in the masses, they just joined in the chaos. So I don't think the chaos still is necessarily planned. There may be a core of them who organize and say, hey, let's hit this area today. Let's organize the people in that city. Let's take on the malls today. Let's go after the distribution centers. Let's work with the truckers and the trucking union to block all the roads today. Yep. There does seem to be organization.
Right.
So but I don't know if it's by a central organization or many of the unions. I mean, just plenty of all the people who are unhappy see this as a perfect justification for their horrific behavior.
Yeah, don't they see then their country north of them, Venezuela? It's this is where they started, and a very prosperous country, and it was destroyed. As you know, people are starving. I've interviewed some people who are starving, trying to leave the country. 4 million or so left. Don't they see that this is what it's going to end up? Is chaos, no food, no infrastructure. And it was a quote that I wanted to read. It says, socialism is a philosophy of failure, the creed of ignorance, and the gospel envy. Its inherent virtue is the equal sharing of misery. That's a good quote, isn't it? But that's what I see.
Because what you said was greed and envy is the cause of all this, and ignorance. And so, in my opinion, it is the ignorance that is leading this on, where they falsely believe that if they could just get a hold and a say on the Constitution, pow, wang, all of their problems are resolved and life will be grand again. Right. And so it's ignorance and naivety that will lead people to their downfall. Mm-hmm. But I have to say, I have many Venezuela friends here, and they have all said the same to me. Right. Leah, we did it to ourselves.
Right. Exactly right. And you're right, ignorance. So you would think they would then share that with other Chileans, as this is a danger. This is where it leads to, because it's destruction. And it's too plain orchestrated, because it's a prosperous country and it's a target for the globalists. And that's how I look at it. It's that we have to take down it and make it miserable like the other countries. So we have like a minute or so left, and maybe you just want to recap or summarize, or a message to fellow Birchers in the United States on maybe something that we can do on our behalf, but what you see from your side of it, you want to share with us.
Well, I want to take it to actually a little sadder part of this that has taken me a while to arrive at that. And I believe there's a quote, I don't remember who it was from, but something to the effect, when the people lose their goodness, they have greater need for masters. Uh-huh. And there's one thing about South America that I don't know can ever change. And it's not what I would consider an incredibly moral society. And theft and taking advantage and corruption has been a part of their culture forever. And to be honest, I don't know. They want to say that capitalism has failed them. Mm-hmm. I want to say that they have failed capitalism. Mm-hmm. Capitalism is really only for a moral society. Yes. And as we lose morality to a society, we are in need of greater masters, and we do no longer deserve freedom. And quite frankly, right now, living in Santiago, I'm hoping for someone with a very strong, heavy hand to come down on these people terrorizing us.
Mm-hmm. Yes, for sure. Thank you. So as we wrap up, remember, your part matters. We thank you, Leah, for your time, and we pray that things get turned around, because we win overall. Truth prevails over lies, right? Thank you so much. www.jbs.org. shopjbs.org for literature and books, or thenewamerican.com. We'll keep in touch, And thank you, Leah, for your time.
Thanks, Wayne.
God bless.